far. I think we are live. Uh-oh, we're getting live. I see it. 17 seconds. All right. All right, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome to Real Talk Self-Love, the November edition. And this is going to be such an awesome one. This is awesome because I have a panel of expert coaches who are on board with me today. But to officially introduce myself, I am Sharmaine Denise, the founder of Reaching New Depths Coaching. And you're here with Real Talk Self-Love November edition, finishing 2020 with peace, starting 2021 with new energy. And I think all of us can agree, whether you're watching, the live feed or you're in this chat and you're one of the coaches right now who are on here, that 2020 has been such a unique year. So I just want to acknowledge that. And we have, again, an expert panel of coaches, all with different specialties. And I'm going to have them introduce themselves individually so you can get a sense of who they are and what they do. So we're going to start off with Sharmaine.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Sharmaine Denise, and I'm a spiritual life coach. I work with women and LGBT folks reclaim their voice, self-confidence, and self-worth by reconnecting to their divine and spiritual selves. So I work with people to overcome their shame and their guilt and move into more of that self-love and transformation from the inside out. So I am very happy and very grateful to be here today with all of you. So thank you very much for having me on this panel.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sharmaine. Rachel, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Grant, and I work with survivors of childhood sexual abuse who are just sick and tired of feeling broken and unfixable and burdened. And through my Beyond Surviving program, I work with them to really break free from all of that pain of the past and move on with their lives. And I've been doing that work since 2007. Holy cow. And so it's really just such a deep honor to get to sit with people in that kind of healing work and to walk alongside them in it. And you can certainly learn more about me at rachelgrantcoaching.com. And I'm just so glad to be here with you all today and to be having this conversation, and really look forward to getting to know all of you who are joining in and listening too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. Serge.
Yes. How's it going, everyone?
Hi.
I'm Serge, online movement and mindset coach within the health and fitness and wellness field, founder of the Positive High System and Rooted Parent Movement. And right now I am diving deep into helping parents, overwhelmed parents, especially moms, helping them integrate mental and physical self-care practices into their busy lives so that they can not only feel better, but move better, and they can be better equipped to not only enjoy their time with themselves, but also with their family and their children. And once they're moving, feeling better within their health and fitness, they can create moving memories with their kids and so forth, planting that generational seed of health and fitness. So if and when their kids decide to have kids, then they will be better equipped to just create even more memories and creating that generational happiness and joy through health and fitness. So yeah, super stoked. Thank you, Rose, for bringing us all together. I've been waiting for the past month and a half for this. So yeah, super stoked. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. And last but not least, we have Quinn. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for putting this together again and again. My name is Quinn. I go by Quinn for the Win on social media, and I am a self-love coach. And just through my own personal journey, I am a recovering codependent, recovering people pleaser. So how many of you guys can relate to that? So through my own heartbreak, through my own rock bottom, I found what self-love actually means. And through practicing self-love over and over again, I have this mantra called becoming your own best friend. So through that journey, it's changed my life. And I'm here to pay that forward, and I just love that there's so many of us are on here together sharing different experiences, but it's all leading to healing and creating more space in our lives, and feel how we need to feel to really flow through life. And so, yeah, that's my jam, being your own best friend and helping individuals really feel and know what that means, knows what that looks like. So I'm just so happy to be here and can't wait for this talk to go on. Thank you so much.
All right. So I can't say how much I'm excited to really be here with all of you and have you all in one virtual space. But so much has been going on in 2020. So I'm just going to go straight to it with this first question and chime in. Please give us your experiences, whether what you've seen with your clients or with yourself, What have you seen in 2020 that is damaging our health and energy? And if we continue these patterns, what would potentially, or what will potentially happen? I know it's a big one to soak in. I'm going to give some preface to that because I think 2020 has hit us in so many different ways with COVID. I think there are a lot of things with the election that have come up, sort of the power, social justice matters. I mean, you name it, a lot of things have erupted. And I think a lot of this may too have existed for a while, especially with the social justice matters. But this year has just brought in a new flavor where everything's brought to the surface. So I think a lot of individuals are affected in very different ways, whether it's their physical health, mental health, their energy, etc. Old traumas coming back or gaining weight from just being at home. I mean, you name it. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of things that I've seen and that I've also experienced early on this year was just a tremendous increase in anxiety. And we're seeing just some of the more darker sides of people come out in the beginning of this pandemic with just the spurring on of racial injustice and things of that nature. We're just seeing a lot of those darker sides of people that I think that we're not used to seeing. And we're all in this kind of collective trauma with the COVID and being on lockdown and just kind of going through that and seeing how that's playing out in the world. And it's been quite triggering. And I know that for me personally, I definitely had to take a step back for my own self-care and for my own needs, especially with some of the very public killings of George Floyd and everything was like that was just spurred on by a lot of just racial tension. So definitely taking a step back. I got off of social media and really got more in touch with my own spiritual practice to really sit with the feelings I was having, because that's one thing that I've learned in my own journey is that I've kind of masked a lot of those feelings where it's like, oh no, I'm okay. Let me just put on a brave face instead of actually feeling what I'm feeling to move through that and being uncomfortable with it and having the tools and the resources available to actually move through that. So I leaned on my support system, my own coach and my own, family to really move through that, and exercise and movement definitely helps a lot. And I'm a creative type, so writing has been a tremendous way of just letting go and letting all of my feelings just explode out of me in a productive and positive way. So I think I kind of went off on a tangent with that question.
No, that was perfect. I want to say
Marvelous,
my mind.
Brilliant.
Yeah, because
we're intently absorbing all of the wonderfulness that you just shared with us.
Yeah. I mean, it's been overwhelming. There's everything to come up, everything, right?
Yeah.
That's,
Charmaine, the word that prompts for me, like what I've really been feeling is bombarded. I think this is a year where I have felt that more intensely than any other year of my life, particularly when it comes to in relationship to things like politics. It might also be age, like where I am in my life too. Like I'm in my 40s now, so I'm paying a little more attention maybe. I'm feeling a little more, like there's more at stake. And but yeah, just that overwhelming feeling of like the bombardment of information. And I think part of what's also been extremely difficult is having to parse through the information with social media and things being so quickly like click and share and things not, I have to go now look and see, is that really true, is that, and man, it just feels so demanding and overwhelming, the amount of information and it being around all of these things are just so very hard. Of course, through my lens, I often look at it through the lens of trauma, like we're experiencing collective trauma. So I'm having my own feelings of depression and fear and anxiety. And then that's happening, like, how is that happening within my relationships and how are we bouncing off of each other in that? And then this more collective global social feeling where we're all just holding so very much together and also separately. I think that's what's so heartbreaking, is that this is such a place and a time where coming together feels so more important than ever before. And to just see that not happening again and again. I mean, there are some beautiful ways that it's occurring, but it just, whether it's through the filtering of what we get told in the media or whatever that might be, the overwhelming sense of there being so much apartness has been really sad and distressing. That's been a big piece for me, what I've been sitting with. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'm feeling everything that you both are saying, because as I just remember when the death of George Floyd came up, and it was just, and people talk about before 2020 arrived, we were all about like 2020 vision. Well, yeah, we got the vision. We saw a lot. And for me, I just remember feeling overwhelmed, but also, how would I say it? Even more exposed, and seeing how I'm reacting, seeing what's triggering me, seeing what pains come up, and taking that awareness and going to my self-love practice. And there was a point where I saw myself, it's like, okay, I do have to acknowledge that I'm doing the best that I can. I know that there was a pressure, and you just see all kinds of expressions. And I know that I needed to go with what felt true to me. Was I feeling like a lot of pressure or expectation from society calling me out to do something? So I really needed to feel into me and like really talk to myself. And that's where like the self practices come in. I love, Sharmaine, how you talked about like writing, finding ways to express yourself, finding your ways to release, because my answers really relied in there. And I said, Quinn, you're doing the best that you can. Continue do the work that you have already been doing, because obviously we need healing.
Right.
Obviously we need healing. So Quinn, don't lose that. I mean, I went all in, like doing all this stuff, and I was just kind of watching myself kind of flow into the masses and everything. And I had to pull back as well and gain my space back, because if I'm overwhelmed, then I'm just going to be falling down like everyone else, so it was a call out for me to continue to stand up for myself and to continue to stand up of what I believe is the answer for society. And it starts with me, and it starts with the ripple effect that I'm already seeing in my own personal life, because I believe in the ripple effect. I believe in the ripple effect, and it needs to be consistent.
Love that.
Yeah. So that's what came up for me with that, with the question, because immediately what popped up in my mind was distractions. Like what's pulling you away from you?
Yeah.
And just knowing that you're doing the best that you can. Like, I cannot say that enough. I had to tell myself 1,000 times, like, I'm doing the best that I can.
Yeah, that feels like a strong mantra for all of us this year.
Yes, like, please don't let people
the best I can.
Yes, because are you going further away from you, or are you growing closer to you? Because you need you the most right now. So that's my answer to that. Like watching your distractions, watching your triggers, and going to your safe space to practice your self-love.
Nice. No, yeah. And then for me, it's one is communication and awareness. It's kind of just revolving with everything and staying rooted, and basically kind of just realizing that, within yourself is the answer. And as far as like, the love, joy, compassion, and understanding. And it's just, for me, I'm very visual. So whenever I do my earthing and grounding, and then, yeah, like you guys said, like I was like pulling out every trick in the bag, or as far as like self-practice, like, all right, I'm gonna do grounding, meditation, totally. I'm gonna do my bath, all right, and it's just like, okay, yeah. And then it's like kind of pulling everything out of my movement and all this other stuff, and finding, and like really, I'm playing with Elijah, and here, like during this whole time, it actually opened up my communication with my partner, with Jovi. Because before COVID, I had the regular fitness trainer schedule, early morning, and then I wouldn't see them during the day and come back at night at like 9 p.m. So I wouldn't really see them until like the weekend usually. Here, like we're stuck in the house, so we're like, oh, okay, we're here. Especially when it first went down, I was like, oh, I don't want to go out. Let's just stay here. I found it as the 3 C's. Like, this is giving us time to connect, to chill, and to create. So
love that.
So here you can either you can create within yourself, or create, as far as if you hated your job and now you don't have a job, it's like, oh shoot, now I have this opportunity to, if you have unemployment, and now I can invest in myself and create the life that I want. Or you can chill. Like for me, like this is the most time I've spent with Elijah and Joby since Elijah's been born. So it's like, now I'm going to take advantage and kind of seeing everything happening for you through a different lens. Kind of, it's like, because it's all here. So it's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to just crumble and just burn the house down, shrivel up? And for me, like I'm an overthinker and I worry. I still do that at times, but now I'm more aware of when it happens. And like Quinn was saying, it's like, it's okay. It's like, we're all going through it. But then now it's like having, a community like this. Like for me, I'm nourishing my roots. We're all together here. And now we're nourishing each other's roots with the community and everything. So that's where the connect comes through. It's like, thank goodness for the internet. Because then now, like I've made the most like connections, this year, ever. As far as like, connecting with like-minded people and everything. It's half universe, half social media algorithm, but it's pretty much everyone coming together. It's like realizing that we're not alone. Like we're all going through this collective shitstorm, basically. You know what I'm saying? And then it is true. It's like as far as the 2020 vision, now there's no distraction as far as like sports, concerts, all this other thing. So everyone's really like honed on into, and like Rachel was saying, it's a blessing and the curse as far as the social media. It's like now like everything's really popping off. Like everyone's on social media seeing what's, what people say, what's really happening or what's really not happening. But it's like you can get sucked in. So that's where staying rooted and being aware of, your triggers, your traumas and everything. And, realizing, your true self and like, yeah, like legit, like loving yourself and be like, hey dude, it's cool, I'm human. And realizing we're alive to experience this, because our grandkids or grandkids were like, oh, grandpa, grandma, or Lola. It's like, how was 2020? That must have been crazy. It's like, sit down and let me tell you a story.
Let me tell you the story, honey. We are going to have some stories to tell. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
History
like,
download.
If you think of it that way, it's like we're in like a pivotal time in human history. So it's like, oh,
fascinating in that way.
Yeah. So yeah, it's super fascinating to think. Is like, yes, we're all going through it together, but like, what is our future generations going to say about us? Because that we've been going through it and we're still here.
Yeah.
I'm saying, so, and giving us more credit than we give ourselves. I'm saying, so, but yeah, same. Sorry, I went off on a.
Oh my gosh, Serge, what that makes me think about so very much is I feel like we hit this point though where things were not sustainable in the way that they were going. Like we as a society and even as individuals, what we were up to, it wasn't going to work long term. The ways that we were working, the ways that we were connecting or not connecting, the ways that power structures have been in place, and oh my gosh, so many things. And so it's almost like this 2020 has been just like, it's been a breakdown. I say this to my clients all the time. It's hokey, right? Breakdown to breakthrough, right? We're doing that as a whole, I feel like. But what I really heard so much in what you shared is like a reprioritization, and that we are coming back to some things. I've certainly seen that, in my life and in my relationships, even like the ways that I choose to connect with people, like, oh no, we're not going to go, drop that $80 at the restaurant. We're going to go for a walk. And I'm just noticing, oh my gosh, I have richer conversations, deeper connection, feel stronger, healthier, and that's just one way that I feel like something has kind of shifted and pivoted in the way that I think about connection with people. I don't know. I mean, are you all feeling the same way in some ways? Like this is like a necessary turning point, a way to help us begin to reassess and reprioritize what we're up to as a culture?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think after hearing all of you respond, I mean, I can relate too on a personal level. I know that I'm a coach and I'm a nurse, like I know everything about health, but I'm not exempt to any of the emotions that has come up this year. Anxiety, depression. I mean, I've gone through it. I have cried. I have laughed at some points. I mean, there are things that I have felt this year that I have never felt in my life. Like I have never felt personally. And but such an interesting thing, you use the word like prioritization, because it did help me when I finally sat down. And I do agree, yes, your self-care practices are very crucial. So for those who are watching that don't have those practices, I mean, this is a good time to really figure out what works for you. I mean, all of us can recommend something, but it comes down to like what really is going to fulfill your soul. But having these practices the last few years of how to get myself back to center, because I mean, I have gone astray so many times this year. It has been a crazy year. So going back to self-care, going back to self-love, I mean, yes, it has brought me back to what's important and what's real. And for me this year, it was, I mean, the coaching practice on a professional level, it's, you know, living my life's purpose of giving healing to people, helping them get through that inner transformation, but spending time with my partners, spending time with my family. You know, I have a stepson now, finally stepping into that parental role, which I'm saying it live, and my partner's probably, yep, she's smiling over there. You know, it's like,
she's like making
she's a live audience, right?
Making a note of this.
Note to self later. But I mean, it has brought me back to really what is important for me, and a lot of that was reconnecting. You're right; the three C's, or I'm going to call them the C cubed. Like it's connecting and creating and giving value to the things that are truly important, because at the end of the day, things can really happen. Shit happens, but you have the choice on where you go to, how you think about it, and how you approach it, and that's going to be the big key. But damn, thank you all for sharing to that first question. It was a big one. This is a big one to think about. How do you say that in like a minute or two, and then not go
we all paused,
right? And not go off on a tangent. I mean, I know everyone took a second. They're like
okay.
Like, dang, bro.
Sharmaine, for going first.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Well, on that note, so I talked earlier with a couple of the coaches here. Like, I just got back into primary care. So for those of you who don't know, I am a nurse. I am now actively back part-time as a nurse practitioner, and I have done so many COVID tests in the last 30 days I've been back. But it's not just administering the COVID test, it's managing the anxiety and the powerlessness my patients feel. So leading into the next question, like 2020 has brought so much where people have truly lost themselves. They feel powerless to what is going on, especially when it comes to the social justice matters and even the election itself. People are just like, what do? I feel like I'm out of control, or I don't have any control over my life, because they're worried about bigger things that are going on. How would you coach, or what advice would you give to your clients, or have you to your clients, on how to reclaim their power during this year?
There was one, I just think of a client. I know, I'm like, huh? What's coming up? Just say it quick. I have one client in particular where with elections, with politics, with social justice, she was all gung-ho about it. She bought books. I mean, she just felt like it was her duty to do that. And then she saw herself losing herself. And so I said, okay, very similar to what we talked about before. I said, what do you need to feel safe? Let's ask those questions again. Like, what do you need again? Let's go back to a time where you felt like things were rolling and you felt good, because sometimes, and this is what's so great that I saw in 2020, at least for myself, more people were open to asking for help because they knew that they needed it, because they really saw how overwhelmed they were and how rock bottom they were feeling. And so I was just so grateful to kind of experience this with her. And so she knew that she needed to get off of social media. And I mean, she even deleted Instagram. And through the week, she already felt so much better. So it's really recognizing, what do you need to feel safe? Because if you do not feel safe, you're going to feel frantic. And if you feel frantic, you're going to move frantically. And if you're moving frantically, there is no peace. Perhaps there's more chaos happening. So what is coming up to my mind is asking those questions, get support, hire support, join a group, something to be the biggest reminder of, well, what is important again. So I hope that answered that question. It was asking for advice for, what was it, when things are overwhelming, or with clients?
Yeah, when you don't feel like you have any choice about what's going on around you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think if I can just piggyback off of what you just shared there, Quinn, this idea of safety, when we're facing so many unknowns, right, that's challenged again and again and again. If we have answers to a lot of these problems, then we don't feel that frenetic energy. It's like, okay, I know what to do. I know how to handle this. I know how to respond. But we're facing a whole lot of things right now that, at least for us, right, who are living it right now, maybe other generations have lived through different things where they can see some correlation, but I certainly have not lived through anything like this. And so it is peppered with unknowns. And our capacity as humans to be with the unknown, it's not usually very developed on its own. Like, one thing that I've worked in cultivating for myself, and then I really work with all my clients on, is first of all, recognizing that we actually do have a lot of capacity to be with unknowns, because we do it every day that we wake up. Every day, right? We set out with our little plan. I'm such a planner. I got my little plan, got my little chart. I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and then flat tire, right? Or with my boyfriend, right? Like, whatever, something happens, and poof, there goes the plan. And so, I think coming back into the place of choice, but it's two things I think that I want to name. Embracing the unknown, like, can we be with that? Can we accept that? Can we live with that? And even in the face of that, can we recognize the places and the spaces where we still have choice? So even if it's like the color of lipstick I'm putting on today, right? Like, there's a place where I'm activating choice, not control, but choice. And so that, I think, has been very grounding for me in that space of when there's so much that feels out of hand, and that I'm questioning how much influence I actually really do have in a lot of ways. For me, it's been a lot about bringing things back very close to, like, my community, to my very, very close relationships, and trying to impact on local levels. Because when I start to think about, how do we change conversations about, racism on a very big global level, like, whoa, like, I shut down. But when I can think about how can I have those conversations with, this person right here next to me right now, that feels accessible. So that's, I guess, what I would offer when it comes to that.
Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, same with piggybacking on each other, but no,
pass it on.
I've been saying that for a minute now, even before the pandemic hit. It's creating that nourishing your roots within the roots close to you, because then you're gonna nourish your roots, and then you're gonna nourish your children's roots, your family, your friends, your coworkers. Eventually, they're gonna be nourishing the roots within their ecosystem, and then eventually it's gonna just spread and spread and spread, and then that's. If you try to, you look at the forest, like, oh, I'm gonna take care of this whole forest. It's like, oh shoot, where do I start? I don't know. But then if you just look at that first tree right there, it's like, all right, I'm gonna take care of this tree right here. Or even like yourself, it's like, I'm gonna take care of,
Yeah, you're the tree.
Yeah, but I'm gonna take care of me, and kind of, I like threes. So like the 3 R's. So like, recognize, realize, and then reframe. So you recognize where these thoughts, where these feelings are coming from, and then you sit and you ask yourself, oh, do I have time to kind of sit here and choose to kind of work within this frame? It's like, okay, now you want to realize why you're feeling anxiety, why you're feeling overwhelmed. And then now you can kind of reverse engineer. It's like, oh, because, I'm worried about the bills and stuff. It's like, oh, why are you worried about the bills? And then there you can kind of just go down the rabbit hole and stuff. I'm in the health and fitness field. So this is me speaking from experience. Yeah. So it's like, this is what I'm doing for myself. But yeah, and then and the reframing, and then just reframing everything as far as like, okay, I recognize how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. I recognize and realize, and now I want to reframe as far as like, okay, if and when this happens again, I know that this is the pattern, and it's basically just choosing to realize and recognize patterns and behavior patterns. And then you get into when they say like the shadow work, so the trauma, and then now if you want to really dive into it, now you can say, okay, why am I really thinking and feeling this? And it's like, okay, and you dive deep into a rabbit hole, and that comes with the awareness, and if you're ready to take that journey.
Wow, I love that so much, because so much of what is happening is this sense of feeling like we're at the mercy of all of these circumstances. And then if you also feel like you're at the mercy of your own thoughts and feelings, get under the covers and don't come out, right? Like, how do I access any sort of vitality or energy or engagement? And so when we start to cultivate those practices that are, at the very least, what I can do is be in alignment with myself and put the hands like back on the steering wheel of my thoughts. Yeah, I think there's a lot of power in that, freedom in that.
And then I think number one is breathe.
Breathe.
Oh yeah.
Shall we breathe?
Is there breath? Yeah, we have breath.
Yeah.
Let's take a collective breath.
Ditto to everything else
Ditto.
y'all just said. I'm gonna say ditto. But Quinn, you brought up safety. Like that is a major key word for me. Just what can you do to make yourself feel safe? And Rachel talking about bringing what's up here, bringing it back down to here. What can I do in my sphere of influence? What can I do for myself to remain grounded, to remain centered, to remain in alignment, and have those seeds spread from there? And Sergio, just talking about rootedness, it makes me think of, I meditate a lot. So that has been like my key grounded practice for me to make sure I stay in alignment with who I am and not to be a victim of 2020, because I refuse to be.
Hey.
So, yeah. And that ditto.
One thing that I wanted to bring up was like, I remember thinking to myself, okay, if I really care about this issue, if I really, I'm aware now. So once I'm aware, I'm kind of like, I could do something with that awareness. And I just kept on thinking, Quinn, you got to create space for this. I mean, if you really want to add this into your life, you got to create space. And how are you going to create space? Well, I need to go to my practices to create that space. And I just want to say from my own personal experience, from still going back to my self-love practices, I saw myself listening more.
Yes.
For an example, my dad will just leave CNN on. He's always left it on. Sometimes Family Feud, but CNN has been on. It's like a favorite ritual. He's left CNN on a little bit more than usual, right? So even my parents are even more becoming more hyper aware. And I had the space to actually listen more. I used to just see the news. I'm like, no, like I'm aware about myself. And sometimes we got to do that. Sometimes we got to shut things off so we can just worry about ourselves. And then we have the space to actually like listen. And I have never been as involved with politics as much as I have until this year came around. I just want to say.
So true.
So the space, creating space for it. And I even dropped off ballots this year. And I was like, how did I just do that? How did I just do that? Okay. Oh, you, blah, 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 blah. Let me take care of this for you. I'm going to go drop it off. And I was like, space. Because I didn't feel pressure to do it. It just flowed because I had the space. So I wanted to talk about the space that we actually get to create in our downtime, in the practices that we need to do to release and be empowered instead of victim. Victim.
No, I mean, Sharmaine,
let's not be a victim.
Yes, choosing not to be a victim of 2020. That's huge. That like melted my heart with everything, with everyone saying. I think just to repeat some common themes. One is being safe, right? That's going back to like Maslow's hierarchy, the bottom of the pyramid, having that safety, which is key. And it's a huge thing. You can't really move forward or even do some of this work that we do with like mental, emotional health without even feeling safe first. Do I have the adequate home, clothing, food? I mean, there's so many things that this pandemic has brought. So I want to acknowledge that there are people out there who are having these difficult times. It is hard. I just want to acknowledge that. But that's the second point. Acknowledging what the truth is, acknowledging your honest emotions, your feelings and thoughts that come up, and not sweep them under the rug. Right? You sweep them under the rug, you're ignoring your truth, which then like a rug, the dirt will just pile and then it'll just explode one day, which can lead to something else. So I do like that. And then acknowledging that you do have that choice. A lot of us talked about having that space to make a choice, that you do have that. So for anyone who's listening, you do have choices that you can make, even the smallest choice that you make in your life, whether what you said, Rachel, of putting on that lipstick or the 3 R's of what Sergio said. I'm like, hey, that is possible to do. But it is, back to your point, when I'm making that time to do it, which is, it's making that time. And a lot of us feel like that we don't have that time, but even 60 seconds of your time of just breathing and stopping for that pause of 60 seconds. If not, I challenge you just for 30 seconds. Can you pause for 30 seconds? That time that you think you're going to pick up your phone, can you just use that for
that's a whole practice,
right? I mean, that's a whole practice in itself.
I'm a big believer of consistent small wins. Like
totally.
That's how I saw myself grow. Like it was like these little moments of just 30 seconds. Oh, don't call him. Like, can I just wait 30 seconds and then the feeling surpassed. So
I call that mindful scrolling, being more mindful about your social media. That is one thing 2020 has taught me. I do not have to ingest everything that is out there, boo-boo.
Yeah.
So just being more mindful about the time and what I choose to engage with. So That's for sure.
Yeah, Charmaine, that makes me think about a point of tension that I feel sometimes in that, which is the balance. Like this, I think, is a place of where I'm still looking to work, which is I want to be informed, I want to be engaged, and I don't want to be triggered and overwhelmed. And it's like, yeah, so it's like this beautiful, interesting dance between like leaning in, leaning out, leaning in, leaning out, and really paying close attention. Like that's where that attunement of self comes in. I was talking with my friends, and we noticed like right in the beginning, particularly right after the George Floyd incident, we were having a conversation. I said, oh my gosh, we're kind of scrolling to the point of dissociation.
Right.
And when we become dissociated, we stop being able to be allies or advocates, or, because we're not there, and so, yeah, it's this interesting space between how do we bring in and connect into the information that we need in order to be citizens, in order to be change makers, in order to be engaged and involved. But when do we have to turn that off and be, that's what brought that to mind for me.
I have found in my interactions with people, because I mean, there's a lot of opinionated people out there, right? So I ask a lot of questions. Like I engage with a lot of people that we do not have similar belief systems. We don't have the same, like just all walks of life. And I just ask questions simply for the facts that I'm curious. I'm literally curious, and it's not meant to be, to go in any type of debate or anything, but it's just where I'm able to engage out of curiosity, so I might learn something different. And when I feel an energy kind of shift, that's when I kind of like, okay, now we'll exit.
Yeah.
So, and there is a fine line and a fine balance, and that's how I've chosen to engage with different people. Not only sharing my own story and my own experiences, but asking questions about other people and their experiences. So, but it is a very, very delicate balance, and your energy translates online too.
So much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It makes me think about the conversations that, oh man, I'm going to age myself right now, but Donahue, the talk show back in the day.
Wow.
Like he took like, people from very divergent points of view and had them sit in a room and have a conversation. And, that I feel like is the piece of the puzzle that's so missing right now. Like there's a lot of talking, but there's not a lot of conversation.
Right.
And I love that space of like, could we get curious about what's actually going on for another person who we absolutely don't agree with, who we really have divergent points of view with? Because ultimately it's through those conversations that we actually create change, but if we are just continuing to kind of talk at each other, then we just stay on these, your side, my side kind of stuff. And I feel like that's just so dominant in 2020. And thinking about how do we move the dial on that as we move ahead, as individuals, as a country, that feels really big.
Yeah,
no, these are very, very great points. I'm just curious now, I'm going to piggyback off of all of you just on this point alone. Have you seen this as a common theme with your clients and who you've worked with this year? Helping them to, or in the way they speak, trying to bring them back to having these, connected, curious conversations. I mean, I'm just curious what you guys, because we all come from very different backgrounds of who we see, of like who we serve. So, and and to add to that, if you can share a snippet, you don't have to say who it is, but just share a snippet of how this conversation, what were your observations of that client and how you guided them through that?
I have a client where she approached me with how to not confront, but to address something that she had an issue with at work. This is kind of like a different category. It wasn't about politics or anything, but just, I'm sure this happens all the time where we don't have the skills to, like, it's almost like, how do I enter to a conversation that I know that I need to have, but not create more fire? Because it does need to be addressed. So I gave her a template because it's something that I've learned and I applied in my life. And we would role play and brainstorm, okay, how does that feel good to you? So What I've seen with this particular client was since she asked for that, she's been having scenarios after scenarios come up where she knew that she needed to have that difficult conversation. And I told her, I was like, and also before you have this conversation, you need to have space to kind of look at your fires, look at your triggers, because if you bring those triggers into the conversation, you will take things personally. So it's like, you got to go to your practices to create space before going into this conversation. Because when I heard the question of like, yeah, having those difficult, but then the goal is to understand one another, to understand, you need the space for that. There's love involved in that. There's caring, there's compassion involved in that. So if there's hate and triggerness in your own pains, there's no room for it. And then if fire meets fire, we've been seeing that all over social media. We already see that. So there's not enough of that because there's not enough space that people have, and there's not enough healing going on, and there's not enough practices that an individual is doing on a daily basis.
I love that. So creating your own self-awareness, you come into a conversation already triggered with those in mind. You're going to act that from there because that's what's actively going on inside of you. So I hear you. Thank you for sharing that. Sergio, I saw your hand.
Oh yeah. It's the same thing, kind of piggybacking as far as like, the awareness, and, I'm going to go back to the breath and kind of just like, don't go in that, sympathetic, like fight or flight or freeze mode where you're already like juiced up the night before. It's like, oh, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, yeah, I'm ready for battle type stuff. But then it's like, no, you got to go in with a clear lens and, making, realizing facts are facts and, feelings are feelings, and kind of just, and also kind of just, I guess pre-warming the conversation, you know what I'm saying? And then kind of just like having that open, that open field of communication, and kind of just being honest and, saying what you feel, how you feel. And, like I said, not going into that fight or flight or freeze mode as far as like going into that conversation. So getting into that rest and digest kind of show, like, I'm always into the staying rooted and grounded and everything. And realizing, it's like, okay, cool. Like this is, how I feel and everything, and acknowledging and realizing how the past interactions made you feel. And then there's like just realizing, okay, this is, and then go back to the 3 R's, like, okay, I recognize how I've been feeling, the past few weeks or whatever over these conversations, like realizing why, and then reframing, how you want to feel about this relationship, and realizing like why you want to better this relationship as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Like realizing why, like what is your intent, and also what's your identity. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you want to feel about yourself and everything like this, as far as like, okay. And then now you kind of realize like, okay, this is just me learning and growing, because I may or may not come across someone else like this again. So this is all a learning experience. Yeah. So then there's like, just like really, like you said, all of us said, like being gentle with yourself, and just like realize like, okay, like this is important to me. Like there's a reason why I'm feeling this way, and I want to, make this relationship better with my coworker, with my partner, with, my child or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, cool. It's like there's like understanding and love and compassion. If you go into it with, fire and hate and, I'm gonna win this conversation type stuff, it's like, then they're gonna be triggered, and then you're gonna remember how they made you feel before. It's like, oh yeah, I remember how this person treated me last week. It's like, oh fuck that guy, or like F person, you know what I'm saying? And then, like, boom, and then you're back at square one. So it's like, awareness. Well, number one is like getting in that, grounded, rooted state, realizing why you're feeling this way, and like why this relationship's important to you, and kind of just opening up space. So
my partner said something to me that's just stuck with me to this day, and it's, is it more important to be right, or is it more important to be kind? And you can see so many conversations, even my own personal, like past conversations where I needed to be right. So I came into the conversation needing to be right.
Yeah, that attachment to
wanting
outcomes.
to be heard.
What
to be heard.
One of the things, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
One of the things that came up for me, just what you said, Quinn, was I don't always have to be right. So I'm willing to be wrong. And so when I So anytime I have a challenging conversation, like real talk, I always pray before I even go in, because I'm just like, I don't know how this gonna go.
There you go. You're
Heaven, Jesus.
You know, all I can
There you
do,
go.
right, all I can do is focus on me and just, stay right here. So, and that also brings to mind setting healthy boundaries too. Like with the holidays coming up, with family may or may not be gathering, maybe virtual, whatever that looks like. The importance of setting healthy boundaries. So, and in terms of communication is just, I am willing to be wrong. I am curious about what you have to say. So I enter my communication with being curious and being open to it, and not attaching myself to a particular outcome, because I have no control over the other person. And just staying rooted to my values and my core beliefs. And for me, that is love and empathy, compassion and kindness, and always leading from that space. So I have no idea where I was going with that, but
It's awesome though.
Staying in
so
line
true,
with those
yeah.
values and speaking to my wants and needs, as far as also setting healthy boundaries. So
Got it.
Yeah, if I can just toss in a little monkey wrench to that.
Awesome, girl. Bring it in.
go for it.
So speaking just purely through the lens of somebody who's, working with people who have experienced a lot of sexual trauma. So I think a dynamic that's happening is that, and I can see it very clearly with my clients, and I'm just wondering if it maybe crosses over into other areas, is a sense of betrayal. So when my clients are talking about, relationships with families, so we know that, upwards of 90% of sexual trauma occurs within the family. It is somebody who was a trusted, known adult that abused the child. And so now here they are as adults, maybe trying to interact with a parent who was abusive, or a sister or a brother, and trying to figure out how to navigate these relationships. And if they're within a family structure where people have denied, dismissed, not talked about, not believed, there's this underlying sense of betrayal. And what I've seen this year that I've not seen in any of the other 12 years of the work that I've been doing with survivors is there's a compounding effect happening. There's the, you don't believe me about this. Oh, and then you have this political view. Oh, and then you're dismissing this thing that's happening, to Black people. Oh, and now you're dismissing this thing that's happening to LGBTQ. Oh, and now this, it just feels like this, betrayal after betrayal after betrayal. And so resourcing the capacity to detach, whoa, that is some Jedi level shit, right? Because there's wounding. I think all of you are saying that in a one way or another, your wounding will show up in your conversations. And so I think we are all working in one way or another through that to help people mitigate your wounding, so you can actually show up as your most empowered self in whatever interaction, is happening for you.
No, Rachel, I'm going to add on to that, because a lot of the clients I've had so far in this inner transformation work to find their energy, and like Quinn too, finding that self-love. It's interesting to watch, of course, objectively, and right, it's easier to see someone else's stuff sometimes versus your own stuff. Just being real, you're just you can see it for what it is. But a lot of my clients I see in the beginning, when they work with me, they just want to move forward. I want to just move forward. I want to just feel better now and just do that now. But what they're not realizing is a lot of the things that they've held on to during those, right, that compounded interest kind of it builds up over time, but they don't either A, have the awareness that that's even a cause of it, or B, they just ignore the fact that had anything to do with it. So I do a lot in my own one-on-one coaching, I practice a lot on, let's just kind of go back to your past, not live in it, but just acknowledge, was there something, and help them do that reflective work. Is there something that could have possibly influenced the way that you're, for example, I have one client who doesn't feel confident about himself and doesn't value himself. And a lot of the work so far, he's, seen other people for care, but when I asked him, I'm like, have you done some, past work, just looking at it, not living in it, but just looking at it, that could be a cause? He said, no, I haven't. So it's an interesting avenue to explore. Some people don't even know that that's an option, or that's even a cause. They just figure that, oh, I just feel like crap now. That's okay. So, because there's a lot of different suggestions that we have here. I'm going to share my method of what I do. And this is a practice too. It's a whole practice. I call it the ABCD method of getting unstuck, or choosing or living in that space to decide next of like where you want to go, besides choosing like the impulsive or the clear path, right? So you have a choice. But A is to acknowledge the feeling. You have a feeling and it's in the moment. B and C are to breathe. So breathe in. D is to clear that stuff out, clear the shit out, excuse my language, but clear it out. But D is the important step. It's where you get to decide what you think next and how you act.
Yes.
So I'm just putting them in 4 simple steps. Like you get to decide and choose that, but that is a practice.
Isn't that amazing, Rose? Like I remember in my own journey in my life, I was like, why do I believe this shit? Like where did it come from? And then all of a sudden, like, well, if I made up my mind to believe that, then I can make up my mind to believe something else.
Yeah.
Right? Like I have that capacity.
Exactly.
I can decide. For a new belief, like what? Yes, this is what I was taught. This is what I was told. Do I want that still to be the value system or the mantra or the narrative? Yeah.
No, huge.
Love that.
Sergio, what you got?
I was taught, in belief, there's the word lie, right? So it's like, but what was the lie you're telling yourself? And it doesn't have to be a bad lie or a good lie. It's just a lie. It's like that lie or that story that you keep telling yourself, and knowing that you have the choice and power to rewrite the story and not necessarily like dismiss your past or anything. And then, you know, like Rose was saying, you go back. Like that's, for me, like that's legit time travel. Like when you meditate and you visualize, as far as like, okay, like for me, like we live in Elk Grove now, and then we have our home. Like I would visualize myself in the backyard, in this backyard here, over and over. I didn't know what type of backyard it was gonna be, but I knew it was gonna be a backyard in Elk Grove. So then I would just visualize myself every time I came back from the gym, and then just visualize myself in a backyard in Elk Grove. And then now when I do it now, when I'm outside at night doing my grounding and stuff, I'm visiting myself in South San Francisco, actually visualizing myself now. And then now it's like, okay, cool. Now I'm at here, this point, what is appreciating now? Now, what is my next desired state? It's like, okay, now I want to be in a backyard that's, well done. We have everything, a pool and everything like this. So we have everything here. So now we're getting that state. And, Dr. Joe Dispenza is big with that, with the becoming supernatural. It's like, you really want to get into that feeling, that state of, being where you want to be, but also appreciating where you're at right now. And then also, respecting your past and going back and, whether it be trauma or anything, like, just if something's really bothering you, it's like really going back and like giving yourself a hug and like just like, hey, dude,
yeah,
it's cool.
That's
in trauma work we call that closing a loop.
Oh, really?
Right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because when we experience any sort of when we stuff something, it gets stopped in the body. It gets held and stored. And so like maybe somebody was yelling at you and you really wanted to kick them in their shins, but you didn't because you were little or you didn't have, the capacity to do it. And so going back into that moment and then literally like kicking as hard as you can, like a pillow or something, doing it safely. Exactly. It literally moves and clears that energy out of your body. And so sometimes it's things you wanted to say. Sometimes it's something you wanted to do. Yeah, like that kind of work is so extremely, and absolutely. I think about like all the things we're trying to like stuff and we can't manage right now because all of it's a lot, that kind of work is going to be really important to find space and time to do because we're just holding so very much.
Oh my God, guys. You know what? Okay, here's a time check. We only have about 7 minutes left.
I know! Let's cram 3 more. Just kidding. I know, I was looking at the time. Wow.
And so this will be the last question, but I mean, if we go over a little bit, totally fine.
Bullet points, everyone.
Yes. Succinct.
It's like, I just got one word. Okay, I'm done.
So here's my last question. We have the holidays coming up. We are, like the title of this talk, we are finishing 2020. The goal of this talk was to really give our viewers and our communities some tips on how to finish peacefully and how to finish peacefully is the first part. Second is how to really start 2021 with new energy. And I'm going to use new because for anyone who's watching right now, what does that look like to you? Do you want to feel happier, more confident in your life? Do you want to feel free, unstuck? So I'm going to leave whoever's watching again, have that word in your head when you hear the answers of these coaches on how to find peace with this year. Because this year we're almost done. This is great. We're at a turning point. It doesn't mean you give up. You keep going with momentum. This is actually the best time. I know in the midst of struggle is the best time you get to learn and grow and evolve.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing. And I think we miss that. When things go bad, I think we have a tendency to shut down. I think it's a natural human thing, but it's the best time to actually grow and to change things up in your life. Now, take that deep breath. I mean, there's so much to say with this question, but whoever wants to toss it, if I had a ball to toss to someone.
I have two.
Okay. No, go ahead. It's okay.
I'm gonna throw two things. It's so strong.
Yes.
First is, what is a small, tiny promise or vow that you can make to yourself? Because those small wins is going to help you see, oh, wow, I can do this. Oh, wow. Even if it's like drinking water, like just what's a small, tiny promise that you can commit to yourself starting right now, right? Not starting when 2021 comes, but right now. And two, do you need support?
Yeah.
When I was down, I could have used a cheerleader in my corner to keep me accountable. And that's what I feel like I'm doing for people. I'm like,
I mean, I'm not going to say this out like just because we're all coaches, but seriously, guys, I mean, I have my own coach and therapist and everything. Like it's huge to have someone in your corner.
Yeah. I've hired people to help me in places I did not know what to do, so
it's a huge, huge asset that benefits you. Having someone who is individually paying attention to you and who you are is huge.
Yeah. They're on your team. They're on your team to win. So do you need support? And what is from right now, what is a small promise that you know that you can commit to every single day?
I love that. Thank you. What we got?
Yes, take it in.
So
take it in. Take your list of 10.
Yes.
Or maybe think of what helped you start, your journey. What were the one or two things that you needed to really start?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Go ahead.
No, yeah. For me, it's kind of just appreciating where I'm at right now. It's like, and appreciating, like you said, respecting your past, appreciating your present, and then looking forward to your future. It's like just really appreciating like where you're at right now and realize like, oh shoot, you know what? I've been through a lot and I'm still here. You know what I'm saying? And then number two is same kind of piggybacking with Quinn. It's like realizing that you're not alone. Like you have support. Yeah. And
you don't got to do it alone.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone as far as like what you're feeling, what you're going through, what you're growing through, and all this other stuff. And you don't necessarily. I mean, we're all coaches here, and we promote getting help beyond yourself, but just tapping in with your a family member, tapping in with your partner, and asking them like, hey, are you? I'm feeling this way. Are you okay? Like the other day, I'm keep it short because we only got like 2 minutes. But I was just feeling, I get this cloud of like sadness sometimes every 3-4 months, and I was just feeling super bummy. And then like usually I wouldn't tell Jovi or Elijah, I'd be like, oh no, just typical guys, just man up, dude, you're good. I would actually tell my clients like some of my close clients like, hey, the cloud's back, and they know when I say that, it's like, oh shoot, are you okay? What do you need? So then there, it's like, but then this time with Elijah, I was like, hey Elijah, can you come give daddy a hug? I'm feeling funny. It's like, oh, why? It's like, oh, I just feel sad. He was like, oh, don't feel sad. Give me a hug. And then I actually told Jovi, she was like, yeah, I noticed you're kind of off, this week. And we talked. So then there, it's like, one, appreciating where you're at as far as, your life in general, but also speaking how you're feeling and knowing that you're not alone. Because, once you release it and then you say, oh, shoot, you know what? I've been actually feeling that way too. You know what I'm saying? So there, realizing you're not alone. So appreciation and realizing you're not alone. So yeah, that's the two things going into 2021 and ending the year strong.
I was thinking about this question. I had a whole list of things that just came to mind, but I know we're short on time. But what is one thing looking back at 2020, what is just one thing that you learned about yourself this year? One thing that you learned. And moving into 2021, I encourage you, write yourself a letter. Who do you want to be in 2021? Where do you want to be? What do you want to feel? Write and speak to that and write yourself a letter and put it somewhere that you'll go back and read later, but put it away somewhere and sometime set a date next year and go back and just read it and see where you were here today to where you are at that future date. So bringing in new energy. Thank you.
Love that. Thank you. Well, I think what I'm being called to offer in this moment is when I think about this idea of finishing peacefully. I love that phrasing, by the way, Rose. Like, what an intention. Just to even just be thinking and embracing that, like, all that I'm doing is it in service to finishing peacefully? And I think one of the things that has really come through so strongly for me this year is detaching myself from doing. Of course we do. Of course we produce. Of course we need to get things done. And at the end of the day, I feel the most peaceful when I'm just being. And I remember sitting back on my back porch. I came through trauma. I came through a 10-year very abusive relationship, lots of chaos, lots of charged energy, lots of negativity. And I'm sitting back on my little back porch in my little garden in San Francisco, my little beautiful cafe lights and plants. And I'm like, whoa, like, wow. But even so, sitting there, I was like, kind of reading a book, and I started thinking like, oh, I need to be doing something. I need to be, this is, I'm spending time doing nothing. Right. And that really has become a pet peeve for me, because in that moment I thought, Rachel, you're not doing nothing. You're doing everything. Like, this is everything. This matters. This is important, to just sit and be and take in, bouncing off a little bit of what Serge said. Like, what are we grateful for even in the midst of great pain and things that have to be fixed, things that have to be solved? But where can we find a moment of gratitude and peace and being? And just recognize that as you're not wasting time. It's not a waste of time. It's not nothing. It's something, and it matters. And it will bolster you. It will help you. And as we think about stepping into new energy of 2021, the only word that came through to me when you asked that was just courage.
Ooh, yeah. It takes courage to be by yourself. And to choose to be, or to choose to be grateful. I just want to add one more thing. Sergio, when you mentioned being grateful or appreciating, in the very beginning of my journey, I chose to have a gratitude journal. I just wrote down what I was grateful for. And that was a practice that changed. It was somewhere I can go. I knew I could just go in my journal. Okay. And it challenged my thinking, because let's just say I had a bad day. Let's just say I'm thinking about, about my breakup or whatnot. It challenged me. How can I be grateful even though that happened? You could even go deeper with it, being grateful for the pain, being grateful for the shit, because it's enforcing the healing journey for yourself. So.
And what's even fascinating about that, Quinn, is that when we express gratitude, we're actually changing our brain.
Oh, yeah.
So there's the neuroscience of gratitude, right? It causes the brain to release dopamine and serotonin and all these wonderful feel-good feelings. And so when we're feeling distressed, when we're feeling down, whenever we connect into gratitude, it's actually helping literally shift our perspective, but our neurology and all that, that's my jam. I love that stuff.
Yes, that's what's helped. That was one of my first tools that I used when I was like, okay, yes.
It's the first thing I teach all my clients too. Yeah. It's
beautiful.
Powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
This is amazing, guys. I'm going to add into this pot. One thing I would recommend to finish peacefully in 2020, and actually to start new energy. And I do agree, Quinn, start today. You don't have to start on December 31st to get this going. But looking at where you're investing your energy, and even if there's this little inkling part of you that knows that it's not a good thing for you, I would listen to that. And that could be different for everyone, right? It's because where we're investing our energy really does matter. And it could be the smallest thing of, who knows what that is going to be for you. Are you in a healthy job? Do you have healthy friends, healthy support systems? Look at that. So look at your life and what you actually have there. Optimize the things that actually do work. And, probably start thinking about the things that don't work. Get in the process of maybe start letting that go. And that kind of work, yes, you would need. If you can't do it alone, do it with a friend, hire a coach, hire a therapist. I do recommend looking at that. The other part of it on a daily basis, this is bringing new energy every day. And I'm going to share what I do every day. And I'm going to give Lisa Nichols credit on this. She's a great motivational speaker. It's all about self-affirmations. But I say to myself, I am this, I forgive myself for this, and I commit to this every morning before I work. And setting my day like that, it really brings in this new energy. It helps me to bring in something new and release and commit to something, even just for that day, just for the day. So that has made a huge, huge huge impact on my life the last few months since I learned that practice from Lisa Nichols of what that means to say I am. For example, I say I'm courageous. I forgive myself for being hard on myself, that I have to be a perfectionist. And I commit to being kind to any patient or client who walks through the door. So that's just as simple as that. I know for some people they're like, yeah, that's kind of, maybe it's a little woo-woo, I don't have time. I'm like, if you really think about it, you start having those conversations with yourself, because the most powerful person who can bring that in is you. It is you. And I think anyone who's watching, if you got any like common theme with all of us being here, is how powerful, how empowering you can be for yourself, but it has to come from you first and foremost. I mean, people can inspire you, give you a feeling, but sometimes that's temporary from an external source, even if it's another being. But when you sit with that and you sit with yourself is what really matters, because 24/7, no one can read your mind. No one knows how you feel. No one knows how you talk to yourself. So being there for you, being that person, that loving person that you are, who you want to be, just want to say that as a last line to this, it's possible. All of that we're saying is possible, but it is a practice. It is a practice. It is a practice. It won't happen right away. It's not like coffee, you get that instant caffeine.
Right?
I mean, caffeine.
It's a little delayed, okay?
Coffee. Where is it? I want to drink it.
I mean, I love my cold coffee, but you know, I'll shut down at the end of the day. But just saying, it's a consistent practice, but it grows. So before we end, we are. I mean, I'm loving this conversation. But do you guys have any events that are coming up for your practice that you want to share? Please do, and I will add your social media handles in on Facebook later on today, so people can get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you directly. But any talks, any services you guys want to share for the holidays or anything coming up?
I have a 30-day journal to help you start on your journey. Hit me up. I can tell you more about it, but I have a 30-day journal called The Start. It will help you start by diving deeper with your awareness. So that's where we can start. Yeah.
Cool. Very nice.
For the month of December, I will be offering group meditation classes via Zoom on Mondays and Thursday nights. They will be free. I will be posting that information on my social media handles. So stay tuned for all of that if you want to get involved and do some meditation. Oh, and one more thing, sorry. Sorry, I forgot. Hello, my YouTube series, which is Queer Conversations with Sharmaine Denise, which Rosie was a special guest on episode 2. That is also, it's a dialogue series that I have new episodes I can't even speak right now. New episodes every Friday. Queer Conversations with Sharmaine Denise. Check it out. That's also online, so I'll post that. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Rachel, Serge, do you have anything?
Rachel, you want me to go? Okay, so if you have experienced childhood sexual trauma, I would encourage you to go to rachelgrantcoaching.com/checklist to get the 3 stages of recovery from childhood abuse. This is going to help you kind of think about a framework for understanding the journey of healing and what kinds of support you need at each level of that healing. It's listed out in this nice, beautiful linear way, just because that's the way our brains work. The truth of the matter is you can be in one stage in one area and another stage in another, but it'll give you a nice framework for understanding and contextualizing what you're doing and where you're at in your journey and what best support to get. You can also pop over to rachelgrantcoaching.com/freebies and check out the podcast and the monthly support group that I run that's donation based, and the Facebook group. So lots of great resources there that are available. And last little thing, theemergeretreat.com. We're adding people to the wait list right now. This is something that I launched this year, right before COVID happened. I was like, phew, okay, first ever time doing a retreat, and it was wonderful and beautiful. And I'm really hoping to recreate that with my partner, Ashley Easter, in 2021. Who knows if it'll be in person or virtually, but you can get on the wait list and learn more about that opportunity to come together. It's really about empowering women. So check it out.
Thank you.
Ooh, all right. Yeah. So, sorry, Elijah's here. But,
Hello, Elijah.
Yeah, so we got my 6-week mommy empowerment group, small group experience here. So basically, it's 5 moms coming together. Got 4 more spots, and everyone watching, if you're interested, I'll give you guys half off. So 50% off the program. Enrollment closes on Friday, but it's a program where we're all going to come together and we're going to nourish your health, your fitness via mental and physical self-care. With less stress and less guilt. A lot of us parents feel guilty for taking care of ourselves. And we're all going to come together to move forward as far as nourishing your health and fitness via mindset, movement, restoration, and all the good stuff. And also offering a 30-minute movement and mindset complimentary session for everyone watching too. So we'll be moving and grooving, and then we'll talk about some mindset stuff while we're moving. So we integrate both movement and mindset together as a practice. But so those two things. Got my 6-week group coming up, and then that 30-minute group.
You're forgetting something apparently.
Your manager.
You've got a coach. He's his coach.
Yeah,
right.
He's your assistant, reminding you of all the things.
Boundaries. He said it's 7 o'clock. It's dinner time. Or it's
Okay.
Okay.
Boundaries.
Like that. Boundaries. He says
Yes,
boundaries.
dinner
Dad.
time, family time.
I mean, as for me, I want to put out there that I did just do 2 webinars. It's the 3 fundamental elements of energy to feel more confident about who you are and clear about your path moving forward. If you missed those 2 dates, that's totally fine. There is a replay and a link available on my page, so please watch that. Right now, I'm only offering one-to-one services, and I am super excited to work with anyone, or even just to have that conversation to start. I like to talk with people first, do like a strategy call to see if we're a good fit. If that works well, then we move forward. But I would love to help people just connect. And if I'm not that person for you, I'm transparent that way. I will refer you to someone who is more in your specialty, and I'm more than happy to do that. Just like these 4 other wonderful people who are here with me today. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. It was such a pleasure to have you. This hour went by super quick for a reason. And I hope to anyone who's watching that you gain some good insight, feel empowered to really take care of yourself, bring in those self-care practices, discover what those practices are for you. You have 5 people here. I'm more than happy to talk to you individually. So please reach out to any of us. But for now, happy holidays, everyone. Thanksgiving is coming up.
Blessings.
So enjoy that with your family. But this is Real Talk Self-Love to Inspire and Empower, November edition, finishing 2020 with peace and starting 2021 with new energy. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Shout out to Rose.
Thank you, Rose. Making it happen.
Hey.
Great job. You put this so well together, and
Thank you so much.
thank you for bringing us together. This was so fulfilling for me. I just finished work, and to come into this was such a gift. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you guys for your time and being present with me today for an hour and 11 minutes. So thank you. All right, to our community,
Take care, all.
we are signing
All
off
right.
live. Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.